Google Gemini 3.1 Pro was already one of the best AI models on the market, but a week ago, Google released a second model called Gemma 4 that is completely free and is giving some people better results than the paid version. The problem is nobody is explaining the difference between the two, so people are either paying $20 a month for features they don't need, or they have no idea that Google just gave away one of its best AI models for free. So in this video, I'm testing both of them side by side across writing, reasoning, coding, and speed using the exact same prompts. And by the end, you'll know exactly which one is worth your time and whether the $20 a month version is actually worth the upgrade. Before we test anything, there's one thing that needs to be cleared up because it's confusing almost everyone right now. Gemma and Gemini are both made by Google, and they're both built from the same research, but they are two completely different products designed for two completely different use cases. Gemini 3.1 Pro is Google's premium AI that runs in the cloud, which means it runs on Google's servers and not on your computer. You access it through gemini.google.com or the Gemini app on your phone, and it connects directly to your Gmail, your Google Drive, your calendar, and everything else in your Google account. It can search the internet, generate images, do deep research across hundreds of websites, and it has a context window of about 1,500 pages of text, which means you can paste entire documents and books into a single conversation. Gemma 4 is the opposite. It's Google's open source AI, which means they released the entire model for free and gave everyone permission to download it, modify it, and use it for whatever they want with zero restrictions. You can run it on your own computer or even on your phone, and it works completely offline without ever sending your data to Google or anyone else. The easiest way to try it right now is through Google AI Studio at aistudio.google.com, where you can chat with it for free and with no setup at all. So in the simplest terms, Gemini is Google's cloud AI with all the bells and whistles, and Gemma is the version they gave away for free so you can run it yourself. Now the only way to figure out which one is actually better for you is to put them side by side and run the same prompts through both. So that's exactly what we're going to do. The first thing I want to test is writing, because that's what a lot of people actually use AI for on a daily basis, and it's also the area where the difference between a good model and a great model is the easiest to feel. I'll open Gemini at gemini.google.com and Gemma 4 at Google AI Studio, and I'll type the same prompt into both. And here's what Gemini gives me. The writing is clean, it flows well, and the tone matches what I asked for. Now here's the same prompt through Gemma 4. The result is solid, and for a free model that you can run on your own laptop, it's surprisingly close to what Gemini produced. Where you start to notice the difference is in the smaller details, because Gemini tends to be a bit more natural with its word choices and a bit more creative with how it structures sentences, while Gemma gives you something that's clean, more concise, and immediately usable, but shorter and a little more predictable in how it's put together. For a second test, I'll give them something a bit more creative. Gemini handles this well and gives you something that reads like a person wrote it. Gemma's version is decent, but you can tell it's shorter and more straightforward, sticking to familiar patterns without adding much variation. If you're writing emails, product descriptions, or anything functional, both of them get the job done, and the difference is hard to spot. If you need something more creative or polished, Gemini has a slight edge, but Gemma is close enough that for most writing tasks, the free version handles it. Now, writing is one thing, but the real test is whether these models can actually think through a problem, and that's where things start to separate. And by the way, I put together a free decision guide with every test prompt from this video, plus a side-by-side feature breakdown so you can figure out exactly which one fits your workflow. You can grab it in the description below. This is the test I was most curious about because reasoning is where you really see how smart a model actually is, and it's the difference between an AI that can repeat information and an AI that can actually solve problems. I'm going to give both models the same multi-step problem and see how they work through it. Both Gemma 4 and Gemini 3.1 Pro have built-in thinking, which means before either model gives you an answer, it actually reasons through the problem step by step behind the scenes. You can see this happening in AI Studio when you use Gemma, because it shows you a thoughts section above the response where it lays out its entire reasoning process before answering. Gemini does the same thing, and both of them use this chain of thought approach to break down difficult problems before committing to an answer. The difference is in how deep that reasoning goes. On one of the hardest math reasoning benchmarks in AI, Gemma 4 scored around 89%, which is a massive jump from the previous version that only scored around 21%. So the thinking on this model is strong. For everyday tasks like analyzing a situation, working through a budget, or figuring out a schedule, both models handle it well, and the thinking process works. For complex multi-step problems where you need the model to hold multiple layers of logic at the same time, Gemini's reasoning pulls ahead. Writing and reasoning are great, but a lot of people watching this want to know one specific thing, and that's how well these models handle code. I'm not a coder by profession, but I've used AI to build a few projects on my own. so I know enough to tell whether the code works and whether it does what I asked for. For the first test, I want to build something fun, so I'm going to ask both models to create a mini game that runs in the browser. Gemini gives me the code in seconds, and when I open it, this is what I get. The physics look great, the animation is smooth, and the way the drops bounce off and react actually feels natural. Now here's the same prompt through Gemma 4. It takes a few more seconds, but when I open the file, it works too. This result isn't as good as what Gemini gave me, but for a free model, this is impressive. Now that was a fun test, but I want to make things a little more interesting. I'm going to take the code that Gemma just gave me, deliberately cut out a random section, and then paste the broken version back into both models and ask them to find and fix the problem. This is a tougher test because the model has to read through someone else's code, figure out what's missing, and understand how to fix it without me telling it where the bug is. Gemini catches the issue immediately and explains what went wrong in plain language in less than a minute. Gemma spots it too and gives solid results like Gemini, but here it takes longer. On competitive coding benchmarks, Gemma 4 scores in the top tier for open source models, and it handles everyday scripting, debugging, and automation really well. Gemini scores even higher, but for the kind of coding you're actually doing day to day. Quick scripts, small automations, fixing errors in your projects, Gemma is more than capable. Where Gemini separates itself on coding is when you're working with large projects, because its context window lets you paste in about 1,500 pages worth of code in a single conversation, which is roughly 4 times more than Gemma can handle. So for small tasks, both work well, but for bigger projects where you need the model to understand how different files connect to each other, Gemini has a clear advantage. Now we've seen how the quality compares, but there's another factor that a lot of people care about, and that's how fast these models actually respond. For this test, I want to push both models with a heavy reasoning prompt, something that forces them to actually think hard before responding, because speed on easy prompts doesn't tell you much. I'm timing both from the moment I hit enter to the moment the full response appears. Gemini comes back with its answer in about 8 seconds. Gemma 4 through AI Studio takes 5 minutes and 21 seconds on the exact same prompt. That's a huge gap, and it's a known issue with Gemma specifically because a lot of people using it have noticed the same thing, where it takes way longer to respond than other AI tools of a similar size. For quick stuff like short writing tasks or simple questions, the difference is barely noticeable, but the moment you give it something that needs real thinking, the wait time shoots up. However, the good news is that if you run Gemma on your own computer instead of through the browser, you can actually make it way faster with the right setup, and I'll walk through exactly how to do that later in the video. Both models work well when you're giving them a task they can handle on their own, but one of the biggest reasons people pay for AI is to have it do work they'd otherwise have to do themselves, and that's where these two start to separate. For this test, I want to see how both models handle research, because that's something a lot of people rely on AI for, and it's where the gap between paid and free becomes obvious. I'm going to ask both models to research a topic and give me a full breakdown with sources. Gemini has a built-in feature called Deep Research, and when you trigger it, the model creates a research plan, goes out and reads hundreds of websites on its own, critiques its own findings, and comes back with a full report that includes sources and citations. It takes a few minutes, and the result is the kind of summary that would normally take you hours to put together manually. With Gemma, you don't get that same built-in direct web research on the free plan. Grounding with Google Search is only available through a paid setup. Instead, the free Gemma 4 version focuses on generating responses from what it already knows, rather than actively pulling in live information from the internet. That's where Gemini's deep research stands out, because it doesn't just answer your question. It plans, searches, cross-references, and delivers a fully sourced report in one go. That difference alone is one of the clearest reasons the $20 a month plan adds value, and it's not the only one. Gemini also connects to your Google account, which means it can read your emails, look through your Drive files, check your calendar, and take action on all of it. You can ask it to summarize your unread emails, find a specific document in your Drive, or draft a response based on a thread you received last week, and it does all of that from within the Gemini app. Gemma is a standalone chatbot that doesn't connect to anything. On top of that, Gemini can generate images, process up to 1,500 pages of text in a single conversation, and it comes with gems, which are custom AI agents where you set the instructions once and the model remembers them across every conversation. These are all things you get with Gemini that Gemma simply doesn't have. And if you need an AI that's wired into your life and can act on your information, Gemini is the clear choice. But Gemma has its own advantages that Gemini physically cannot match, and they matter more than you'd think. The biggest advantage Gemma has is privacy. When you use Gemini, every prompt you send goes to Google's servers, gets processed there, and Google has access to it. When you run Gemma on your own device, nothing leaves your computer, your phone, or wherever you're running it, and that matters if you're working with anything sensitive, whether that's client data, personal documents, or anything you don't want a third party seeing. The second advantage is that Gemma is completely free, with no subscription, no monthly caps, and no limits on how much you use it. And the third is that it works offline, which means you can use it on a plane, on a commute, or anywhere without internet. Now, if you want to try Gemma without installing anything, you can just go to aistudio.google.com and start chatting with it for free in your browser. But if you want to actually run it on your own device, you can do that too, and it's easier than it sounds. AI models come in different sizes, and the size is measured in something called parameters, which you can think of as how much knowledge the model has packed into it. Gemma 4 comes in a few sizes, and the two main ones are 26B and 31B, which means 26 billion and 31 billion parameters. The 31B is the smartest, but it's also the heaviest, which means it needs a computer with a decent graphics card to run smoothly. The 26B is lighter because it uses a technique where it only loads part of the model at any given time, so it runs faster and fits on more computers, and that's why the 26B is the community favorite for running locally. If you have a laptop or desktop with a decent graphics card, you can download a tool called Ollama. Open your terminal and type Ollama pull Gemma 4 E4B. In this example, we're using the 4B model, which is one of the smaller sizes. Once it finishes installing, you'll have Google's AI running directly and smoothly on your machine within minutes, without needing an internet connection. There are even smaller versions of Gemma 4 that run on phones and regular laptops, and you can get those through the Google AI Edge Gallery app on Android. The whole point is that you own it, it runs on your hardware, and your data stays with you. Now, after running both models through the same tests, this is how I'd break it down. Gemini 3.1 Pro is the more capable model overall. It writes better, reasons deeper, codes more accurately, and it comes with features like deep research, Google account integration, and a massive context window that Gemma doesn't have. If you're already inside the Google ecosystem and you want an AI that can act on your emails, your files, and your schedule, Gemini is the better choice. Gemma 4 is the most capable free AI that Google has ever released, and the gap between it and the paid version is the smallest it's ever been. For writing, everyday coding, quick reasoning, and anything where privacy or cost matters, Gemma handles it, and the fact that you can run it on your phone without internet or on your laptop without ever sending your data to anyone gives it a use case that Gemini cannot fill. You don't have to pick one over the other. You can use Gemini when you need the full ecosystem and the deepest reasoning, and switch to Gemma when you need privacy, offline access, or when you just don't want to pay for something you can get for free. Both of them are available right now, and you can test both in the same browser through Google AI Studio without spending anything. And the fact that Gemma 4 runs in your browser for free through Google AI Studio means you can test everything I just showed you right now without signing up for anything or paying a cent. If you want to see more about what Gemini 3.1 Pro can actually do when you push it to its limits, I made a full breakdown of everything it's capable of, which you can watch right here. Hit subscribe if you want more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.